thank you for watching and supporting. It really does mean so much to me that you find value in what I do here online. So just thank you.
So as per usual, I'm working on my manuscript, trying to get ahead of this deadline. For those of you that's seen my last video, you'll know this deadline is fairly important, considering it will dictate my future on this platform. In a momentary lapse of judgment, I decided to go on Twitter just to browse around for a few moments, and I found a couple of friends liked a tweet that was retweeted by a booktuber who put up a fairly lengthy video, which sounded very intriguing to me considering who it came from. This booktuber is not someone that I'm a fan of. It's actually among this group of booktubers who I've kind of written off, but I will get to that more momentarily. The reason why this is now becoming a video is because her video has started making me question things that I once believed to be absolutes, while also validating other opinions that I was fairly confident in as well. So this is going to basically boil down to a discussion that may get a little lengthy in and of itself, but before I go too far into it, I want to make my thesis statement in all of this, and if only one point can be taken from it, this is the point that I want to drive home. Even though I've never had any interaction with her personally, I don't believe I've ever really watched more than maybe a handful of videos when I was first in the community, and definitely have never tweeted to or commented on or had any kind of indirect or direct interaction with this booktuber. I feel as though I owe Kat from Katytastic an apology for just the way I thought, just the way I felt about her and booktubers like her. The video she posted, which will be in the description below, but let's be real, if you are in Booktube, you know who she is. There's maybe half a dozen booktubers that have more than 200,000 subscribers, and she is among that group. Which also means this may be redundant because I know she's never actually going to see this video, but this is just as much for me as it is for her. I need to own up to something, and well, this is how I plan to do that. I'm going to start this video by giving a brief rundown of my own bias and why this particular video by Katytastic kind of blew me away. I, to anyone who knows me, frequent new booktubers. I like getting to know people when they're getting into the community. I like people with less than 1,000 subscribers, ideally. Now, I do follow others. I do follow people with multiple thousands of subscribers. Dozens of people I do subscribe to and watch. But when it comes to the high end, the upper echelon, I had no interest in even giving any of them a shot. We're talking about your Poland Banana Books. We're talking about Jessie the Reader. We're even talking about Katytastic herself. And this is a mindset that has kind of taken a shot tonight. When I first found the community, I'm just like everybody else. I found Christine's channel. I found Jessie's channel. And to me, and this is probably going to piss some of you off, but to me, it was just a bunch of over-the-top, yelling, nonsense, random noises. Basically, it was the equivalent of that kid you knew in high school who did every possible physical and audio thing they could imagine to try and get your attention and think it's funny and entertaining. I did not have a very high opinion of these booktubers. I did indeed write them off as basically mindless trash. That is absolutely unfair. But my opinion on people like Christine and Jessie and Kat, they may have even been readers before. They probably entered the community as, young YA readers who got in early, so got a huge audience, and now it's about catering to the audience more so than actually the books. I know someone got in trouble not too long ago for making this kind of observation, that there's more emphasis on production value than actual books, and how sometimes it does really feel like the contents of the book itself is really second fiddle to the entertainment of the video. And honestly, even after watching Kat's video and looking at some of these other booktubers just to see where I stand with that opinion, I stand by it for a lot of the content, but not all of it, which is definitely a step in the right direction from where I used to be. I don't know why this is, because I'm not sure if this comes out in my videos, but I try to be the most open-minded person you would ever meet. I am generally in a lot of arguments and debates with people, but mainly because I'm always taking the other side, because I always try to look at things from both sides. But for some reason, I didn't see these big booktubers as actual people, and that's terrible to say. It might be very superficial and due to their sub count knowing that it doesn't matter what you say or do to them. It doesn't really matter because there's so much noise. There's so many other people speaking that it'll just get lost in the fold. The idea that harmful comments, the idea of criticism, the idea that unfair criticism could actually get to them and affect them as human beings is something that never crossed my mind, and that's dumbfounds me. With all my preaching of fairness and open-mindedness and inclusion, for me to look at anybody as the character that they play, that blows my mind that it went on for as long as it did. Not only that, since Kat's video went up and I looked at it, I'll admit that, okay, just the 3 examples that I use. Christine, sure, she doesn't have a whole lot of book content on her videos anymore, but when she does, she still does a decent job of giving her own opinion. And she's making entertaining content for her audience. Who am I to say that that's not right or that's not correct? How can I sit here and preach and say diversity advocates getting all up in arms because this person red carved the mark? That's not fair because this is supposed to be a community where you are open to do whatever you please. How can I have that opinion and at the same time condemn another booktuber who is vastly more in tune with her own community than myself for making content that I deemed unfit for Booktube? It's hypocritical is what it is, and it makes me a huge hypocrite. There is something that Kat said in her video specifically that prompted this kind of thought process. And it's something so simple that I'm embarrassed that I didn't think of it first, but it really is a valid point. Considering that a lot of my battles with the literary world is with those who read literary fiction and throw their nose up in the air at genre and throw their nose up in the air at pulp fiction, the kind of shit that I'm going to be trying to crank out. The fact that I needed Kat to point this fact out to me is incredibly embarrassing. But her point is, especially in the world we live in right now, in the state of things, videos in the community and Booktube in general don't always need to be critical analysis. They don't always need to be in-depth reviews of books. There is room in this community for critical thinking, and I will stand by the statement that there's not enough critical thinking in this community. But at the same time, that doesn't devalue the worth of this kind of just entertaining style of video. No, it's not meant to educate. No, it's not meant to enlighten. It's literally there for you to turn on, grab some popcorn, turn off your brain, and maybe have a laugh. Whether it's because they're funny or they're so ridiculous that they think they're funny that it's actually kind of funny that they're doing it. Either way, there's room in the community for both entertainment and education. And I think that's the thought, that's the olive branch that I never psychologically extended to these booktubers. Will I go and subscribe to Christine's channel? No, that's not going to happen. I do not enjoy her content, but Kat's video has opened my eyes to maybe I don't need to be so critical of her right to exist as I have been behind the scenes for so long. I think this is the first time in a video I'm actually saying this because, again, there's a huge audience that enjoy her, so I know I'm going to be alienating a lot of people by speaking negatively, but it just had to be said. Kat did the Getting Back to Booktube book tag. It's a 25-minute video where she just bares her soul and talks about the pros and cons of even doing this anymore because of so many different factors. Some of them are personal, and I'm not one here to discuss those. I wish her the best when it comes to her mental health and all issues outside of the community that she has to deal with. But even in the end, like I said, where she's such a large booktuber, I dismissed her as a person and saw her as Katytastic. I saw her as her booktube persona, and now she was just another one of these loud and wacky booktubers who were just trying to make a laugh at the expense of actually speaking about the books, and that's totally not fair. In the end of this video that she put up, she mentioned how her passion, her first love is writing, and how booktube is something that she could live without. She is someone who wants her writing to speak for itself. She doesn't want to be who she is because of a booktube channel. And considering where I am right now, that really spoke to me. It really helped me connect with her in the video and again get past that persona and see her for being a real person. Not only is she a real person, she is a real person who is kind of in a very similar mindset to myself. Now again, different positions obviously, but it's the same thing. Another point she brought up, which is also a really big reason as to why I'm making this video, is describing why she makes the videos that she does. This over-the-top, really energetic and happy kind of character that she puts on, while not fake, it is a part of her. It's not necessarily organic either. She mentioned how if she does a video and it's not on her best day and she has to try and force herself to be that happy cat and people notice it, it's crushing. And it's not something I can say I understand and that I've ever felt before, but I can imagine that you have a really shitty demeanor, you have a really terrible day, you get on camera, and because your audience expects it, you have to be as happy as possible, and you get damn well close. But because you didn't laugh at a certain line or because you didn't say something a certain way, you get a flood of comments, people asking you, are you sad? Are you upset? What's wrong? Is anything okay? So you do all that effort and still it's not enough for people. It's not the happy cat. So if you have 200,000 subscribers and they subscribe to you to see you be really excited and happy and bounce around and all of this, you can't just stop because you're going to lose your fan base. Well, potentially. And that's something that I never considered for people like Christine and Kat and Jesse, that they have this pressure on them that even if they're not feeling up to the character, they still have to play that role if they want to cater to their audience. And when you are a booktuber of that size, I would imagine that your audience is a big part of your life. It's true that with an audience that large, you lose a lot of the direct engagement, which is another thing Kat mentions about how she does wish she probably had less subs, because then she could be more engaged with her audience instead of a flood of fury of comments coming all the time. It's really eye-opening to understand that these large booktubers, hundreds and thousands of subscribers, can be so lonely. And it also would explain why almost every damn video I see on a lot of their channels is collab videos, because their audiences are so large that you don't get the same kind of engagement with them that we do at the level of 200 and 300 subs. We can talk to everybody in the comments and have a grand old conversation with them if we choose. People like Kat can't. So they find solace in their booktube friends. There's just so much to unpack from that video and so much for me to think about the way I view big booktubers versus small booktubers, that I don't know, like, I really need to reevaluate this. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that I am now a subscriber to Katytastic. I will watch her videos. She has definitely at least earned that much from me. And after this, with this video and being as sincere and genuine as she was, she has earned my respect, and I will once again offer my apology, even though I know she'll never actually see it. I'm sure there's more that I wanted to say. I'm sure there's not really a cohesive point to anything that I've just said. It's more just a ramble, but I just had to say it. So do yourself a favor, especially if you are someone like me with this unannounced personal bias against booktubers that have sub counts in the 6 figures. It's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely worth a listen. Maybe it'll get you thinking about it as well. They're not so different than us, after all. Which again, I still feel like an ass for needing this video to come to this conclusion. If by some miracle of life Kat is watching this, just to let you know, the opposite of benefit is detriment. That's the word you were looking for. But that's it for me. I really need to get back to work. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
I have always said that I would stop doing YouTube when it stopped making me happy. And YouTube doesn't make me happy anymore, at least not in the ways that it used to.